we're here with Rob Tovar, and he's the director and founder or co-founder of 2112 Incubator. Before we get into what 2012 is, Rob was mentioning earlier something about a facial yoga, and I really, really need to find that out before we kick this thing off.
He went there, and I wish I could recall the young lady's name who came up with it, but yoga has been around forever. There was some famous guy that got in trouble for many other things for licensing hot yoga and doing his thing. I think we've all seen that Netflix show. I like that guy, and then I found out I was a creep. Well, anyway, facial yoga. This a very attractive young lady who does celebrity yoga, and she actually went on Shark Tank, and don't know if they actually bought into it or not. But she's very successful, and she teaches people how to use their facial muscles and tones to stay young. And think about it: if you don't use it, you lose it, right? You want that six-pack gut, you got to put the work in. So she does. She came up with all these crazy exercises, and she monetized it by licensing.
Okay.
So kind of like the original hot yoga came out, it was all licensing. He convinced these people to pay him an absurd amount of money, and they became instructors all over the planet. So she's doing the same thing, but it's facial yoga.
Oh my gosh.
The thing is that me being in sales for many years prior to 2112 and traveling this awesome country of ours and our planet, and I would do things to stay awake. And I invented facial yoga 15 years ago. Fuck that girl. Well, not like that, but you know what I mean. Screw you, lady. I drive up and down the street or going into Nashville at 2 in the morning. I've been driving all night, and I got to stay awake. You're squeezing your steering wheel, you're raising the eyebrows, and you're doing everything in the world to stay awake. And that's facial yoga, so you stay young. Apparently, you can stay 10 years younger by using all your facial muscles. So facial yoga, everybody, wasn't my idea, but I think it was.
Yeah.
She just monetized it. Damn it.
Man,
That's awesome.
all these great ideas.
And here we are at an incubator. So
Yeah.
that's a good segue.
So tell us a little bit about 2112. Obviously, we're here in this office or this incubator space. How did it start, and what's it about?
2112 was founded by Scott Fetters, who's been a longtime friend of mine. Actually, Scott and I met when we were both in the hospitality industry. So at the time, I was the multicultural director for Caesars Entertainment out of the Horseshoe Casino here in Chicago. We had offices at the John Hancock. What does a multicultural director, VP of player development do? Well, you focus on that 2% of the planet that could afford to fly private and play some absurd amount wagers. And I met Scott because at the time he was managing the New W Hotel on Lakeshore Drive. So at the time we had very high expense budgets. We entertain our clients very, very nicely. And Scott happened to have the services and things that I needed for some of my clients, and we just became best friends. Through that, we were working with the Chicagoland Chamber at the time. Back then, a gentleman named Jerry Roper was running it, and great person. What he did with the chamber was amazing. But Scott and I were a little younger, and we're going back over a decade now, and we had a lot of fun in Chicago with yachts and limousines and people that coming in and like Michael Jordan and placing crazy bets at the mighty Horseshoe Casino here over across the lake in Indiana. So So 2112 was an idea of his that he had. He at the time he was working with the Music Commission and trying to identify what music was in Chicago. Chicago at one point was a huge music scene. Fort Knox was already built. Fort Knox is the music side of 2112, separate company. That's where we have 100 rehearsal rooms, over 20 recording studios. But more importantly, what started to evolve was the business. It's like, okay, so you're rehearsing, we have all this music here, but what's happening? What's the business structure look like? A lot of people in Chicago, things were being very segmented, so nobody was talking to each other. There was no transparency. But, Chicago was always a music city, and then it kind of went away. Kind of like the film world. It went away, then it came back. So by establishing 2112 next to a large rehearsal space, that's where that music started to come in and the business started to kind of coexist with each other. So it was very organic where 2112 houses over 125 startups on the creative tech entertainment sector. But if you need an entertainment lawyer, it's here. If you need a PR manager, an artist manager, it's in-house. If you need a graphic designer, it's in-house. Or if we don't have it in-house, we have somebody, you know, externally that we're working with. But it's a way to foster growth in business and to help artists kind of pursue that career and to get to that next level. And at the same time, to help small startups work with artists so that we all start to kind of coexist with each other and economic development, community relations, and really putting Chicago back on the map. Chance is doing a great job with that. Chance was very instrumental in the early years here with us.
Okay.
He worked out of this space, done a lot of rehearsal out of here. He got warmed up for his tours out of
You're
here.
saying Chance the Rapper?
Chance the Rapper,
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
yeah. He's kind of a cool cat.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of thing that started to happen. It's like when the business and the artists started to kind of organically come together, we found ourselves seeing growth and then watching that foster. You know, now we have, you know, so Smashing Pumpkins are hanging out for 3-4 weeks, getting ready for their tours. You got Kings and Leon rolling through. You got the, you know, Mumford and Sons. You got, you know, a little bit of everything rolls through here. And on the movie side, you know, when I came on board, so again, you know, known Scott for a long time. I was part of I've been in television and film production for a while. Worked at several places, managed some very large studios, worked very closely, you know, with the ABC group and Fox. I was one of Mancow. Everybody who knew Mancow is, hey, Mancow.
Yeah.
Did a lot of content production for him, but that kind of just started. That set me in place to when we came here on how to utilize all those connections, and we networked that growth, and then here we are at 2112. But then we launched The Hangar. The Hangar launched 3 years ago. We talked about music. We talked about business within 2112. When The Hangar launched, that was our film division.
Yeah.
The Hangar is a 7,000 square foot stage with 30-foot ceilings. Actually 28, depending on where you stand at. That silly air conditioning unit kind of hits you in the head if you're 30 feet tall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that quickly grew because of what's happening in Chicago with film. A lot of the episodics started coming in here. We're picking up overflow from the larger stages that are in Chicago, CineSpace being the biggest one. And thank you, a big shout out to Alex Picios on that for reviving the film community in Chicago. It was very alive in the 80s. It went away, but then he really put a lot of work into it, him and his uncle, when they came out of Toronto, to take an old metal factory and they converted it into a 63-acre movie lot. So if a lot of people don't know about that, we are the second largest, in Chicago, we have the second largest movie lot outside of LA. Soon to be the biggest because he's added an extra 15 acres. So by him doing that, large spaces like we have, I'm able to accommodate, the overflow of some of the episodics, some of the Netflix shows that are coming into town. We just recently had Showtime here with us for several months.
I remember that.
Showtime built a really awesome set, and Work in Progress, which is currently airing on Showtime. It's an episodic, but it was completely produced, written, filmed, post, everything was down here in Chicago. So we're really proud of that one. Work in Progress, which is Lily Wachowski is part of that. Tessa Films is another big part of that. But it's all in Chicago. And for those of you who don't know the Wachowskis, they are the ones that made this little thing called The Matrix.
Oh, I definitely did not know that.
It's video, so Matrix. Hey, what's up? So I'm trying out for Matrix 4 here. Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, is that a thing?
Yeah, Matrix 4 is definitely it got green lighted, so it's green lit.
Yeah.
Some of it's going to be filming overseas, but there are rumors that some of that might be coming back here to Chicago. And without the Wachowskis, we wouldn't have that.
Yeah.
Wow. So that's great here. And then most recently we had Disney, so Freeform, which is one of Disney's channels, has committed to doing several made-for-TV film projects here in Chicago. And the first one is called That Thing About Harry. They just wrapped, and that'll be coming out on February 14th.
February
2020.
Wow. I was wondering what they were doing.
Yeah,
you guys kept that very good
That
under wraps.
You know what?
Yeah.
It's funny when you work with different networks, being in film or music or anything, is what you're allowed to say and not say. Freeform kind of leaked it that there was something big happening in Chicago, but that's it. Nobody knew where.
Yeah.
Well, we were the ones that had it, and we're really happy to have that here. But what happens there is, let's go back to 2112. So with Showtime, we had a couple people that were able to pick up small projects out of that. So a staging company got lighting and whatnot. With Disney, that got really cool because of what happens in 2112 and what we stand for. So an incubator, we're here to incubate, to help companies grow, to help somebody's business or idea get to that next level. We were able to place one of our design acoustic members that's within 2112. So his name's Kevin Rogers, Carp Designs. So he designed some really awesome acoustic sound treatment rooms, across the country. But Disney actually brought him in for props and staging.
That's awesome.
So he was out there building, you have to build these fake props when you're on location somewhere, and they kind of brought him in. So that was something that was incubated through 2112. Another young lady, she became, now this is a big one. So she's an actress, and actually I'm not going to say the name because I didn't get any permission from her or anything.
No worries.
So she is an actress, screenwriter, producer, director as well, model. But she was actually the assistant to the directors. So every director has an assistant.
Wow.
She was the executive assistant. When you say executive assistant to the directors, it was like all 5 of them.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it was like everyone's listed and then it's her. And that was something that happened through 2112. So the things that happen at 2112, it really is to foster growth and to help give guidance to someone's concept or their entrepreneurial vision to get to that next level. Some get there quicker, some don't.
Yeah. No, I've kind of jumped around the Chicago scene a little bit, and I'm not going to mention any incubators or accelerators or co-working spaces that I've been in.
As long as some of them don't have numbers in them.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Like I've jumped around a couple of them, for the last 3 years being in Chicago. And one thing I've found about 2112, I love this place, is like there is an actual community here that cares. And I know that you, Scott, and Amor do a lot to actually try to get people business, make introductions. Like we have interns coming through here all the time, getting amazing gigs. So yeah, I just wanted to, thank you for taking the time to being here, because 2112 has been, amazing to us. I mean, we have the space, we have access to like equipment and all these things. So really appreciate that. I do have a question though. How did 2112 get its number? Because that's not the address.
No, it's funny you say that. We had a delivery here this morning, and because it is the holidays, and I'm not sure when this is going to go out on the air. So it is holiday week.
Yeah,
things are slow. So they're non-office hours are not existing right now. So we had this poor truck driver's trying to figure it out, and he's lost, and he's like, it says 4245 Knox. That's the address.
Yeah.
He goes, what the hell is 2112?
Yeah.
So 2112, actually, the entire place, if you look at Syrinx, are some of our conference rooms that are in-house. And for those of you watching out there, 2112 is 30,000 square foot, open co-working share space, encompasses offices and open space and whatnot. But everything has a name, and a lot of that was named after the Rush album.
Oh.
So if you're a big Rush fan out there, that's kind of where that came from. Our neighbor, we coexist as two separate companies, but we coexist together. So on the Fort Knox side, we're on Knox Street. the fort. It was kind of, it's like we're making gold here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds cheesy, but it kind of isn't.
Yeah, it's cool.
Some of the artists that have popped out of here on the EDM side, you have Louis the Child, Weethan, Win and Woo. I mean, those are some big names that are popping.
Yeah.
So the gold is really kept back there.
Yeah.
I like to say I got Disney gold now on the movie
Yeah.
side.
Yeah.
So yes, our sister company, which is a separate business, but we share the space. It's Fort Knox, and in 2112, it was after one of the Rush albums.
Got it.
If I'd have been here earlier, I probably would have gone with something more Led Zeppelin. Like that's why the Hangar got its name.
Yeah.
I have it. Not to regress or anything. I do have an aviation background, and I've always been an aviation buff, and I'm a Led Zeppelin fan. I like all types of music, but to me, the Hangar was like, yeah, Zeppelin, and it's crashing, and the Hangar, and
Yeah.
so yeah, and just the cool stuff that happens in there has been pretty fun. So anyway, 2112, and a lot of the offices have names after Rush songs or Rush albums.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense. Now things are kind of clicking for me.
And really quickly, and thank you. I know we talked about Scott Fetters, but then more. So there is 3 of us at 2112, and we're all very instrumental in what we do and the programs and projects that we go out and seek to help the community grow and foster growth. So,
No, I could see everything that you guys are doing, and it's amazing. Kind of a good segue into your past, just hearing your story, because that's kind of the Alone and So Very Afraid podcast theme, is telling the stories of people who, have kind of ventured off on their own and started something. You said you had an aviation background. When and how and why?
So I'm a Marine.
Mm-hmm.
When I came home from the Marine Corps, my mom, I love you, Mom, so in case you're watching, she actually retired from a little company called Wrigley.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Very little.
the gum people.
Yeah.
So actually I used to get in trouble because my entrepreneurship started in school because I used to take candy and all sorts of stuff that my mother brought home.
Yeah.
My brothers too. And yeah, I'd sling it.
Yeah.
Who wants gum? Remember the gum that was wrapped up in? I sold all that stuff. I got it at a discount.
Yeah.
Oops, she's retired now.
Yeah.
I guess it's safe. And I'd sell that stuff at school. So anyway, when I came home from the Marine Corps, she had lined up a job for me at one of the local factories, and it was one of the packaging houses that did a lot of packaging for the Wrigley company, and they're behemoth. They're just a monster candy gum manufacturing facility, and it was out in Sugar Grove. It's called Emerald, 47, and that was great job, great pay. But when you come home from the military, you get thrown into civilian life, it's just not the same. And I guess a lot of people sometimes don't understand that. It's different. Life is just different.
Yes.
And I remember my second day, I took a lunch, went outside, didn't go sit with my team that was there. Everybody takes a break. And I actually went across the parking lot, and I'm going to show my age a bit. There was payphones. This thing is called payphones. Yeah. You put money in them, and you could dial. Wow. The kids are like, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
And I quit. And I called her, and I said, I can't do this. Went through the newspaper, circled. That's how we looked for jobs back then.
Yeah.
And I circled some places that was more in the line of what I wanted to do. At the time, I came across this thing called do you like airplanes? Do you like to fly? Do you like to travel? All those catchphrases.
Yeah.
And it was this little outfit out of West Chicago, DuPage Airport, West Chicago, Illinois. A gentleman by the name of Harry Cameron. Cameron aircraft upholstery. It was they redid the interior of small aircraft for private jets, and sometimes larger jets. And so it said no experience necessary, blah blah blah. And I'm like, I'm a Marine. How hard can it be? I can handle it. I'm a Marine. I can do anything.
Yeah.
And that's our mentality. I think you're military as well.
Yeah.
Military?
No.
Yeah. But that's our mentality. Literally,
Yeah.
Marines, I got it.
Yeah.
U.S., you figure it out later.
Yeah.
So I ended up calling. Found out later that the crew were all taking bets on how long I was going to last. Respectfully came back, finished my lunch, and I told the gentleman, I can't do this, man. And they all knew it. They laughed. They were literally exchanging money
Awesome.
in front of me.
Like, oh man, I had 3 weeks.
And they knew. They knew. It was like, he's got a week. He's got a month. He's got a day.
Yeah.
He's gone right now.
Oh man.
And I did. I came back, but I did check in with my mom first. I thanked her because I didn't want to insult her.
Yeah.
And being Latino, you're gonna get your ass kicked anyway when you get home.
Yeah.
Because she's gonna pull my ear. It's like, what
Yeah.
the hell are you thinking?
Yeah.
And even though I'm a Marine, she's allowed to do that.
Yeah.
I'm afraid of my mom. So.
Yeah.
So called this gentleman. He's like, come on in. Literally went home, changed. Didn't really have a suit because I would just come home from the military. So I put on a white shirt and some skinny little tie that I found, some black khakis, and I drove my butt all the way up to West Chicago, Illinois,
Yeah.
and for an interview at 3:30. And walked in. He questioned me. I met the secretary, which later I found out was his daughter. She interviewed me as well. Then he walked me around the hangar, and this is where, for those of you that don't know what the hangar is, that's where you keep the airplanes at. And he goes, "Do you know how to sweep?" And I kind of looked at him like, "Is this a joke?" Oh, by the way, Harry Cameron was this almost 7 foot tall monster of a man,
Oh wow.
like
Yeah.
Scottish. I mean, like
Okay.
he was
Yeah.
a monster. White slicked hair, a goatee, and I walked in. There's airplanes in there. This place like this is fucking cool.
Yeah.
This is what I want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, no experience, never touched an airplane. In my, outside of jumping out of a helicopter or an airplane in the Marine Corps, I've never done anything.
Oh, you're airborne too.
Yeah, I think everyone in the Marine Corps has to jump a bit, but yeah, I did. I was
Oh.
infantry, so I jumped.
I don't think everyone has to jump.
I did helicopter jumps. A lot of helo jumping for
Yeah.
me. Yeah, not everyone, but you're right.
Yeah.
And I get in there, and I go, "Yes, I could sweep." And he goes, "Well, sweep." This also ties into what our interns here do about sweeping the hangar, because it all ties in.
Yeah.
His crew came in. They pushed 2 planes out. I think there was 2 or 3 planes in there. They push him out, and he kind of showed me that you put this like they call it sweep dust, and they put it on the floor, and he gives it a gloss, and it keeps the dust down, and you sweep the hangar. And I swept this whole thing up, rolled my sleeves up. I think by the end of the time I had actually unbuttoned it. I was tied was
Yeah.
on. And he comes out, and turns out Harry was a Marine. Good old Harry was a Marine.
Yeah.
And he hired me. He said, "Come back tomorrow, we'll get you started." And he hired me. They put me through school, and I have an aviation degree. It's one of my first degrees.
Really?
I have 3 different majors.
Yeah.
Aviation is one of them. And would always grateful to the Cameron family for having me come in and spend a very awesome time in the aviation industry. I have an avionics major.
Yeah.
Kind of bounced around. Actually, I was one of the first freelance mechanics for something called Harpo Industries, which is Oprah spelled backwards. Hi, Oprah. Remember me? Actually, when she first got her first Kennedy aircraft, I was one of the first mechanics in Chicago that was certified to work on those things.
Wow.
So yeah, Oprah, when she got her
Yeah.
show here in Chicago. Now I'm really showing my age. So,
Yeah. Yeah. But no, this is exciting because
Yeah.
there's a lot of things I've never heard about
Yeah.
your story.
Yeah.
This is a very interesting beginning
I don't
because
know.
it started. Yeah.
I think we're gonna make a movie out of this.
I know. I think Rob's gonna have a movie. You should start pitching your life.
My
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So aviation, and then I mean we're now in an entertainment incubator. Like, now what happens after?
So aviation. Went to school, but then at the time, shit happened. The airlines like Midway Airlines, believe it or not, there was something called Midway. It wasn't just Midway Airport. Like airlines started shutting down, and people started. It was just crashing. Things were crashing everywhere. And I quickly saw that right in a wall. I also saw that I got myself into an industry that was kind of cyclical. So it was high, it was low, it was high. Right now it's high.
Yeah.
You can make a lot of money in aviation right now. They have a shortage for everything.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I hit it at the end of that. I was peaking.
Yeah.
Except that I was young and I was a Marine. I'm still a Marine, right?
Yeah.
And I said, I ain't doing this. So I went back to school.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a plan. My plan was finish my business degree, have my aviation degree, and my plan was I want to be the youngest FBO. So FBOs are fixed base operating units where aircrafts get repaired. But I was going to concentrate on private aviation because at the time, the big airlines were having a lot of problems. They were shutting down, they were closing, they were getting sold. You know, Pan Am's and all, everything was just going everywhere. And I was so young, and I'm watching these old timers kind of like, I said, fuck that, I ain't doing that. And I've seen my father go through the car industry. I saw that, and I could see it. It was like, nope, that, writing on the wall right behind you. I was like, that ain't happening. So went to school, then I started doing my research. I'm going to go work for corporate aviation because Oprah gave me the taste of that. At the time, there was a cable company called Centel Cable, and I was also freelancing as a mechanic for them.
Okay.
So Centel Cable was kind of like Xfinity, AT&T. And I was like, they were the biggest cable guy, and that dude was a stud, man. He had 5 private jets at Aurora Airport. I was working on them. It was just fun. I was a junior mechanic back then. And I said, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get myself through school, and I'm going to land at a corporate aviation hub. And there's this little company called Weyerhaeuser. I love to say this part because I actually own a piece of the rock. There was a commercial back then for insurance guys. It's like, I own a piece of the rock. Stockbroker. So the piece of the rock, Weyerhaeuser actually owns, at the time, it's been a lot of years now, but they were the largest private landowner in North America. So they own Mount St. Helens, all those trees, that's what they do. They're a pulp and paper manufacturing company. But because of all that land, Weyerhaeuser was also the largest private aviation owner because somebody's got to patrol all that, fly over those things. So when you go to Tacoma and you land in Tacoma, Washington, when you're landing, if you look to the right, it used to say Weyerhaeuser. It may still. It's been a while for me, but so it used to say that. So when when the volcano exploded, I was like, yeah, there goes my stock.
Yeah.
Mount St. Helens. So Weyerhaeuser were expanding into the Midwest, and they were opening 3 new manufacturing facilities. They had one in Chicago, which were redoing. They redid one in Rockford, and then they opened a brand new one, which is now owned by International Paper, but they opened in Aurora, Illinois, right across from Michael Jordan Golf Course. Yeah. And I said, that's my end. I'm going to get a job with Weyerhaeuser because my degree allowed me to do that for their large equipment. But that's going to be my end. Then I'm going to sneak my way over to corporate, and then I'm going to run the aviation department. And that was my goal. That was my plan. I wrote it out. Yeah. Boom, got hired. Yes, boom, got promoted within a month. Boom. Shit, never happened. Because my degree then took me into environmental management. And what I was doing at the time, I started working in safety and environmental. And soon I find myself writing, they still use it to this day. Well, it was bought, maybe they don't. But they used it for many years, and I actually ended up writing this safety guidance, hazardous material waste book for the plant. Yeah. I was in charge, I was the environmental manager, the youngest environmental manager for Weyerhaeuser in Chicago for 3 plants. Started to travel, working with the environmental groups out of Tacoma, and that kind of turned into the chemical side, which is how I ended up going to work with the company, which was then out of Denmark, Van Waters and Rogers, which is now known as Univar, which was at the time the largest chemical raw distributor in the planet. My business degree coupled with a minor in Eastern religion and a lot of science sprinkled in there, which allowed me to have various environmental jobs through the planet. So hazmat certified, volatile organic compounds, how to minimize organic compound going out to the air emissions. So I was responsible for a lot of that. Yeah. That was my manufacturing piece. So I have aviation, manufacturing, then I went into chemicals. But when I went into chemicals, it was for the biggest and the best. To keep it short, I was very successful and a lot of entertaining. So my clients were Fuji, uh, Huntsman, Dow, DuPont, Butterfinger. I mean, some of the biggest clients ever.
Yeah.
They were mine. And that's kind of how that happened. I ended up in the chemical world.
Yeah.
And then life happened. Then I got sick.
So what's the timeline? Like it sounds like you're like in a lot of positions, but like
5 years, 6 years, 7 years was one of them. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
6 years was one of them.
Yeah.
wow.
I'm a little older than I look, guys. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No,
You'll do the math, and you'll
Yeah.
figure it out. And when you guess it, I'll say, yeah, you're on.
yeah. We won't guess it on air.
No, we won't.
Yeah. If you looked at LinkedIn, because the years aren't in there, but if you start to do the math, you're like, so, and that's okay. You're never kids. You never ask someone's age ever. You know?
And the good thing is you do facial yoga, so
Yeah,
you
I'm
stay
telling you,
young.
facial yoga.
Yeah.
This is what I'm telling you.
Yeah, 10 years younger.
I was doing facial yoga back then, so you
Yeah.
didn't invent it,
Yeah.
lady.
Yeah.
Everybody, that works. Keeps it.
Yeah.
I'm telling you. Then life happened. I got diagnosed with some very serious intestinal issues. A lot of that's personal, so I could actually tell you off the air why and how.
Yeah.
I'm fortunate to be here. I woke up one day with about 10 to 12 inches of my intestine being removed, a colostomy bag, and happy to be here.
Yeah.
And that's when I discovered how good corporate treats you. Corporations and insurance and all that. So I spent about a year and a half going through some very serious medical problems, all stomach related, a lot of surgeries. That's when you really find out who your friends are.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Lost a job, couldn't get a job. Nobody wanted to touch you.
Yeah.
Because quite honestly, I was in and out constantly. I was in and
Yeah.
like I think I landed a job at a friend's place who did me a solid. Sean, if you ever watch this, thank you. I could never forget that one. And it was at a transportation company. So I know a little bit about logistics.
Yeah.
There you go.
And he just did me a solid, and we landed a huge deal. It was a baking company, Sara Lee. Is that right, Sarah? I
Yeah,
think it was a
Sara
Sara
Lee.
Lee deal, yeah. And then I was in the hospital 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
So dealt with that. Went through bankruptcy
Wow.
because of medical issues, because of medical bills, and
Yeah.
you lose your insurance. And I mean, there's a lot of things that people should really prepare for. When they say insurance, and if you're gone for a long time, then you're short-term leave, then you're long-term leave. Well, all that eventually goes away, and when it's gone, you're fucked. There is no way around that, man. You're just done. Fortunately for me, I had a great family, a bunch of good friends. And then when I got back on the horse again, I went back into aviation. And this time I was selling private aviation charter jets
Okay.
and selling jets.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's amazing.
So I'm back to the 2% of the world.
Yeah.
So were you on one of those shows that's on TV now?
And that's how I landed in entertainment. Because some of my clients, I'm not allowed to say who some of those are, but a lot of them were sports celebrities, movie stars. A lot of them wanted to go to casinos. And we started with casinos, but that's how I ended up in the entertainment world, because the casino industry quickly said, we want him. Because I'm sending these clients, I'm sending baseball players and football players and basketball stars and movie stars, and they're flying with me. And so that's kind of how I ended up in the casino world. But by now I was starting to work with talent, so now I'm booking talent, working on commercials with them, or taking them to commercials, and that's kind of how my world in the television and film industry started. And this is why I say always never burn your bridges also, because every single company that I've talked to you about, I can always go back and find you someone in that industry that will still talk to me and loves me.
Yeah.
Because I never burned a bridge, and I've always been, how can I help you?
Yeah.
Which is why we're in the incubator now.
Yeah.
So let's fast forward a little bit.
Yeah.
So went through the casino side of it, and here we are. through things that happened unexpectedly, I was always various types of industries, but I was still always able to maintain those relationships. And how can each and every single one of those relationships help me along the way to be where we are today? Definitely not something you write down, not the perfect recipe,
Yeah.
but I maintained, I stayed on course and stayed positive.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good nugget. That's a good takeaway for a lot of people, because people just move on from things and never look back. But you leveraged a lot of those relationships.
And that's a great way of putting it. It's leveraging that. It's some people say it's like one door closes, one opens. Yeah, that's great. But did you learn anything from that door that closed behind you?
Yeah.
And I think that those were my takeaways. I never got angry at any of them, especially when I went through my medical ordeals. For me, it was okay. What happened, and how can I use that to my advantage later? And I tell you, a lot of those. There's been times and instances where I picked up the phone and called so and so at some big company in Barrington, Illinois, and he's the plant manager now, or the owner, and always excited to talk to me, and we always get to that yes, or can you help me here, which has gone a long way with what we're doing here at 2112 with our interns as well. I've always, to grow is great, and to do it on your own is amazing, but I couldn't have done it without all of that that's happened, in my life, and those that have been there to support me. So,
Yeah.
true believer of that. True.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree with that. I mean, I don't think I've ever actually gone off and done anything on my own either. It's not like Pat Scouts was created on its own, right? Like, we have business partners. Every venture that I've ever done has had some sort of relationship with people that has helped it. And I think I couldn't agree more with what you just said. During those time, this is many years. Were there any periods where you were kind of questioning where you were actually going to go in life? Was it always a goal for you to kind of be an executive leader of like an incubator, like just supporting people, like your own business? Was that always a goal, or you've worked for a lot of people?
The goal was always there. Even when I worked for two of the companies I mentioned, they're Fortune 500 companies, and the goal was always there for me. It's like, how can I leverage everything that I'm doing now to do it for myself? So there was always that passion. At some point, I became a partner in a bar restaurant out in Naperville, Illinois.
Which one?
It was called Feng Shui at the Fifth Avenue train station.
Oh, okay.
And there's 4 of us, and we had it for 3 years, and it was a great learning experience. But I've always, at some point, I've always tinkered with. We had a racing car, the bar restaurant, my chemical company, which is for sale now. 2112, which is very successful, the hangar, which is very successful. But there's always been aspects of it. We had this fire retardant, awesome sealant that was being applied to airplanes, and me and 3 guys went into it, and we lost our asses. And so the answer is yes. There was always that spark was always in there, and I think that spark really started with me hustling with my very own paper route at a very young age. Does that even happen anymore? Does paper routes still exist?
No, but that's actually what you said earlier about selling gum and candy, and candy.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I know, like, Mark Cuban, he used to sell garbage bags. I don't know if you knew this.
Yeah, I know that.
He sold garbage bags door to door to his neighbors because I think one day he was like talking to his parents, and he was like, I just want to sell something. And they're like, go ahead and sell these, kid. And then he just went door to door.
And you figure it out.
And then paper route, Warren Buffett did that.
Yeah,
so.
I was definitely paper route. I think all of us take different, for whatever reason, our lives take us in different directions and paths. I made some mistakes along the way, as well. Sometimes I think there comes a time where you have to be really mature. There was a time where I'm I'm killing it. I'm successful, 6 figures. I have a bar, and then you make a stupid mistake because then you get cocky.
Hmm.
Uh, that's learning. Again, never hide that. To me,
Yeah.
it's like, yes, I did it. I made mistakes. Uh, but I truly feel that's what's made me a better person, a better parent, a better everything, mentor,
Yeah.
business individual. Once you really dig in there and pull it out, get that clean soul out, because that's not something. It could be taught, but sometimes you have to learn it along the way.
Hmm.
Wow, we're getting deep now.
Yeah.
It always does.
Well,
This is
Oh,
how-
you're just really interesting.
Yeah.
What kind of like made me think is like what kept you motivated through all these different changes? Because I mean, there's a lot of drastic industries that you went through. Like, what got you motivated to just keep going, or being able to just kind of adapt and change? Like, a lot of people would just stay and stuck it out with the aviation thing, like you mentioned, the writing was on the wall. But a lot of people would have just still stayed, not knowing what to do.
Yeah, I have friends that are there now, and some of them are very successful. I've had friends that have been there since the beginning, since I started with them.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them works at Gulfstream down in Florida, beautiful home in Fort Myers. A lot of them didn't make it. A lot of them were, unfortunately, it's sad to say, some of them were living back with their parents because companies shut down.
Yeah.
And, you know what it was for me? So I'm first generation Hispanic. Both my parents were from Mexico. Our lineage is from Spain. We're Spaniards. They came through Mexico and whatnot. I was born in Texas. I have 5 siblings. Yep, I have to count that one. So 5 siblings. I'm the second oldest in line. And for me, it was watching my folks, watching my father, and what he came over. He was working for some fence company. That fence company turned into getting a big contract for a gas company, which was Amical. And that's how we ended up here. My father came to Amical Research Center in Naperville. So in Naperville, Illinois, there's this beautiful research center, and my dad ended up there. And it was cool. And that's how we ended up here. And that was to start, watch them, and then watch my mother, they both learned English and became American citizens. And he has a killer job, and then he finished at which is now BP Chemical in Naperville, Illinois. Then he went to Caterpillar, and he worked, and he always worked hard. He always provided. And then my mom went to work, and she retired out of Wrigley, and a nice pension, and it's like they did it.
Mm-hmm.
And here we are, first generation. And for me, it was like, we weren't always the best well-off family in the block, and it's like, okay, beans and rice again. That's the thing.
Yeah.
And just knowing that I'm never going to give up, and to watch them never give up. And I don't know how they did it,
Yeah.
but we always had, these are the holidays right now. We always had a Christmas present, even if it was just a shitty sweater or a jacket.
Yeah.
We had it. We always had food, and we always had electricity and heat, always, and a ride. Well, sometimes I walked because I was just stubborn, but
Yeah. Yeah.
But we had it.
Yeah.
And I think that was the push for me. And then just sitting down in life and observing others and knowing it's like, this is what I'm going to do. And now doing what we're doing here with 2112, when people say, it's like, what is it that you enjoy the most about what you do? Eric, and you've known me at a personal level, I love my job.
Mm-hmm.
I get to be a mentor. What I say isn't the gospel, or it's not the perfect recipe, and neither is what Scott is, but we put everything we have into trying to get you there. And for me to watch people succeed, and we get nothing out of this one.
Mm-hmm.
That's what makes it. But because of that, the benefits that 2112 is getting for growth, so that 2112 could grow, so we could provide even more assets.
Yeah.
That's coming, and 2020 is going to be an amazing year for everybody. So, yeah, for me, I think it's just from a childhood thing, and I've always had that spark and that leadership. I really always try and stand out. Some people might have called it the short person complex. I don't think it is. I have a huge, I get it. And then I learned how not to be cocky. Because there was a point where you guys would have met me, you're like, that guy's an asshole.
Yeah.
Because I was working at a Fortune 500 company, and I had a bar, and I was just killing it.
Mm-hmm.
But I was an asshole. And I think I needed to get sick. I think a lot of things needed to happen to me so that I could the real person came out. And a lot of that was like, okay, this is success, and success is not that. Success truly is having food at the table and just being surrounded by loved ones or friends or watching others grow. That's my calling. That really is my calling in life. And then doing some really fun stuff here that we're doing.
So the fulfillment piece is kind of
Mhm.
kind of filled up in the
Yeah.
recent time
Yeah.
that you've been here.
Yeah, if you and it not so much just here. I think it's just in life. If you look at that pie and you look at that, maybe feng shui, or depending on what you study,
Yeah.
but how do you become true to yourself, and it all really matters. Alone time, reading, exercise, good diets, the fulfillment portion, giving back, and everything. And if you really find that homeostasis,
Balance of
yeah,
it.
and balance in the center,
Mhm.
and that nucleus is there. It happens by itself. It's
Yeah.
magical, and others see it and they feel it and they feed off it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it is. Just bringing positivity and giving people hope, and having people take that chance and really taking that risk. A lot of people don't know this. When I came here, when I left Fox and I left Mancow, and Answers Media, which is where I was at prior to coming to here, I spent a year here free. It was free of charge, man. Had no idea what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And then the salary came, but it was a freebie, man. I jumped off the cliff. So
Mhm.
yeah, leap
So-
of faith.
So what do you guys need, or what do you guys need to do in like 2020 to even do bigger things, or like what's kind of like what are the things that you guys are looking to
So-
get or do?
So 2020 are going to be they're going to be very exciting. It's a very exciting year. It's already kind of started. We're already letting some information leak out. So we're looking to hire. So we just got a grant from an entrepreneur group that's out of DePaul, and that's going to allow us to bring in 2 new hires, and that's going to allow us to develop programming, marketing, educational programming, a bunch of great stuff, but it's going to be beneficial to all the 2012 members.
Mhm.
That's also going to allow us to hopefully look at somebody for more of the community relations, which is super important because that's the individual that kind of gives us guidance as to what our members need. So it's that growth. 2020 in Chicago is the year of music. Scott Fetters and another 2112 member were named to be on the commission for Year of Music for 2020.
Oh, wow.
So we're looking to make a big splash in the Year of Music for 2020 and tell the story of what 2112 is, why it's called 2112,
Yeah.
why it's called Syrinx, why it's called Overture and Oracle and all that. So that's super important, and that's going to attract more, hopefully more entrepreneurs or members to want to be a part of our community, and that's really where the growth comes in. The hangar on the film stage, Illinois broke in at $940 million in revenue for film industry. Very happy to be a part of that. We're looking to make some improvements in our stage and to bring in more film features, episodics, and as many more commercials as possible. And hoping to hopefully get some grants to help with some of those improvements as well. Being a for-profit, 2112 is still a startup. We're only 4 years in, so we're a startup, and it shows sometimes. But I think that's what makes it so lively, and I think that's why entrepreneurs, when they come in, get it.
Yeah.
They get the space, they feel the energy, because it's like we're in the same situation. We are growing, but we're all in it.
Yeah, I feel like when we first started coming here and Eric introduced us, this is going to be where we're going to be working out of. I was kind of skeptical. I'm like, what is this place? But I mean, upon like first impressions are everything. It felt friendly. I felt like comfortable even when I met you. Like there was like a different vibe in here than any other office that I've been in, and I think that shows, and that startup culture here is very friendly. Everybody you pass by and everybody you talk to, everybody's friendly, and you could just tell that they're here to make it, or they have a kind of similar goal, and that community feel really comes through.
Yeah, I think it's that community feel, and I would like to watch it from afar.
Yeah.
But people really want to get to know each other, and when they can, and if possible, depending on how busy they are, but they want to. It's like everybody wants to help each other.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I might know somebody that could help you with that
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah.
But it's, there's this old saying. It's like, you walking the talk.
Yeah.
I think we not only walk it, you could breathe it and taste it
Yeah.
here. You could literally breathe
Yeah.
it. And sometimes I joke around when you walk the hallway, sometimes you can smell it, but that's because it's the entertainment industry. I can say that now. It's January 1st.
Yeah.
Not here.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen inside the
Yeah.
offices, but anyway, the musicians. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I've always said that, and that's what got me here. When Scott, it took Scott 6-7 times for me to come up here, but once I walked in here, I never left. I literally never left. It's like, what do you need? What do I need to do? And how do I carve something out for myself in here?
Mm-hmm.
And then it just grew. How do I not only carve that? How do I help everyone in here? What do I have? What are all those assets from anything from government, political, all those companies that I talked about? I mean, that's all. Everything's a resource.
Yeah.
And I've used every single one of those resources. I mean, we have clients working with the Milwaukee Bucks, we have Jimmy Cornelius in here from the Blackhawks. We got you guys in here. We have an amateur fight league that does stuff on NBC Sports. We have Grid Life. Those guys are Leo Burnett guys. Honda picked them up, and they do racing events all over the country. And we have musicians. We have people from The Voice and American Idol and it's, Disney, Showtime. We have the number one sought after immigration lawyer in the planet. I think that's your neighbors in your office.
That's our neighbors.
The McEntees, they're amazing, brother and sister team. The first attorney to sue Trump. Sorry if you guys are Trump fans, but she did it. Because it was immigration, and they followed their dream, and she wrote a beautiful book, and she's the go-to MSNBC correspondent for immigration issues out of Chicago. That's big. Like that shit's happening here.
Yeah.
And that's the magic. So to answer your question, is more growth, to be able to bring in more startups that could trust us, and at least give us an opportunity to help them follow their dream. We're doing it. We're all doing it in here.
Yeah.
It's not easy. As the 2112 director and partner, there are times where we sit up late at night as well, and it's not easy. But you do it.
I think the coolest part about the executive team here is that I think you guys work harder than anyone else here. I've came in multiple times on Saturdays and Sundays, and one, if not all of you, are here doing something. And I've always found, like, do these guys actually have?
Do they ever go home?
Like, do they live anywhere else? Like, or do they live here?
Yeah. we definitely we all three of us definitely dedicate ourselves to this. This is primary number one. Because we are a startup, we have to put so much work into it. We do know that we have to find that balance for home and work to be healthy, and we get that. This is why our founder is in the Bahamas right now, enjoying time with his new wife. Hope they're enjoying it.
Yeah.
But that's something more of that we want to do in 2020, to split some time for all of us to get that R&R, because that is important. Otherwise, like anything else, it could get tiresome, and it could also drive it to be a negative thing.
Yeah.
So it's living, how to keep that positive side going. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you guys how did you figure out how to carve your own little niche inside of here? You kind of mentioned it, but I'm not sure if you went into detail. And what did you mean by that?
What I meant by that is, like, this is a really cool concept. At the time, 2112 wasn't even built yet. It was just an empty giant space with electrical wires hanging everywhere and plumbing, and Scott would sit around and go, and this is going to be that, and here and there. And I'm like, yeah, okay, dude, whatever. I'll see you in 2 years.
Yeah.
But then it happened. And for me, it was one of the things that you will always hear me say, like when you came on board, is like, why don't you come hang out here and come to some network events, come be part of the community, work from here a few times. And that's what I did. I just kind of came and worked from this space. At the time, it was very early. The McEntees didn't even have an office. They just had a desk. But that's when I started to become engulfed in the community, and then I started to tie all of that into how the resources that I have and what do I have that could help them, what do they have that could service someone else, and how to cross pollinate all that.
Mm-hmm.
And then quickly I was like, I really like this here, but because it was a startup, there was no everyone was just trying to figure it out,
Yeah.
and I quickly said, it's like, it's Scott, and at the time there was some of our other founders who were here. A lot of changes that have happened in 3 years as well, 4 years actually. It's like, I really want to do this, and here's my idea. And he's like, well, we'll go for it, but we don't have any money.
Yeah.
and they were a startup, rightfully so. There was no money. There was everybody was pulling their own weight, and friends and family, and we were just trying to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of how that happened. For me, coming here from larger stages, I always knew that there's a big room over here, and because of what's happening in Chicago, now we're going 4 years ago, I could see the writing on the wall again, that what was happening in the center space, he was going to hit a point where he's going to be full. Mm-hmm. And all these other stages need to be ahead of the game and figure it out. Mm-hmm. So the one, we just launched a stage and announced to the planet that, hey, we're here, should that need ever occur. And that's kind of how that happened. It was organic. It was never planned. Mm-hmm. It was looking at the state of industry in the area, and it's kind of what Scott did as well. He looked at the state of the industry, and they studied Chicago for years on what music and business meant, and what was lacking in Chicago, and why was it lacking, and that's how 2112 kind of came to be. Mm-hmm. People weren't working with each other. There was no transparency. Everybody was out on their own, so they built this community where all came in. And now we got guys here that worked on Oprah, music writing, and you got licensing people here, and awesome attorneys and law firms, and it's all coming together. Is it finite yet? No. But are we 80% ahead of anyone else? The answer is yes. Mm-hmm. So whether a lot of our artists are they're going on tour, they're at Lollapalooza, or they're at Bonnaroo, or we're feeding bands to these large festivals. Mm-hmm. And people out there are starting to recognize who we are.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think there's a lot of younger people nowadays who are trying to kind of start their own businesses and go off on their own. For you, it's a lot later in life, and I think the most successful, startups generally have founders who are like 45 years and up. Mm-hmm. Have you found that like all the network and experience that you've had over maybe a couple decades of experience, has that really kind of helped you accelerate a little bit more, or do you feel that you're hitting like major catastrophic mistakes at this point, or over the last couple of years, or have you been kind of able to smooth it out a little with?
Actually, a thing is, and Scott and I have about a 10-year difference. Having that youthful, relevant, mindset in business startups is awesome. And then on my end is having, that's a mistake. Let's talk about that. So it's being able to bring in different scenarios. So I think it's been very beneficial on both sides. Mm-hmm. For me, it's definitely, as startups sometimes come to me and we start to talk about someone's idea or where they're at, in that roadmap to their launch. Sometimes we're able to identify mistakes immediately, or we shouldn't try that. Let's do this. But then again, that's when we'll bring in a focus group, and it's like, let's get a group in. It's not just me. It can't just be us. Mm-hmm. We're here to give suggestions, advice, but we're also here to connect you to other people so that we collectively try to come up with a good solution and not make those crucial mistakes that could make you not able to launch ever. Mm-hmm. It's like, let's save your money, let's figure this out, and that's the goal, is to not to deter you from doing it, but how do we make some concise educational decisions to go forward with it. Mm-hmm. That's important.
Yeah.
Because I personally, we've seen some failures, and they break my heart. Mm-hmm. I get it. Not everyone's going to make it, right?
Yeah.
But it does suck when they don't. It really does. I want you watching me run down the hallway going, woohoo, look at what happened. You know,
Yeah.
that's the success. That's what we want.
Mm-hmm.
And there's different levels that come to everyone. It's not going to do it at the same time, but it's getting there. So yeah, I think yes, definitely having gone through what I've gone through, it does give some sort of credibility to how to navigate that world of business and startups.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah, I think that your experience has been really helpful too, because you're able to already have credibility. Like
Yeah.
one of the problems I think a lot of us younger guys trying to break into an industry is that you don't have enough like longevity in an industry yet for people to really recognize you as somebody who has expertise or even any credibility to sell them anything,
Right.
right? So I think that has been helpful for you. What type of things that do people usually ask for in this space? Like you have companies from all different types of like you have product based
Mhm.
companies. Do you help with them with like placement, and then how have you kind of leveraged everything? Some
it's
examples.
when you look at our mentor programs that we have here, we try and sprinkle a little bit of expertise within, and that goes the same with programming for our 2112 members. So it could be anything from finding capital for you, not going out and finding it for you, but pointing you in the right direction. Talk to these groups, putting together focus groups, putting you in touch with someone that could do graphic design or legal or political. Does this need to be a state law? I had somebody approach me the other day that they want to come in. I love what they're doing. I really want them here, but we have to get a certain law passed in order for this business to grow. So it's a little bit of everything in between, education or it could be someone that has a script idea and they need to meet a director or a producer, or I have a company that's going to go out and do a conference and they need staging and lighting or camera work, or it's a little bit. It literally is a little bit of everything.
Mm-hmm.
Contractual law sometimes,
Yeah.
it's all in house. But having all those assets within, and then also resources externally, makes it really easy for us to connect people.
Yeah, something I've found really surprising just from working with you on the Elite Amateur Fight League side was the fact that we needed state sanctioning, and somehow you knew the person, you knew Nancy right off the bat. You're like, oh, I can introduce you guys to this Nancy. She's the gatekeeper. So I found that to be surprising. I don't think you mentioned anything about your MMA
My
and
sports,
boxing. Yeah,
my sports.
because that's a whole other aspect. We got aviation, manufacturing, chemical,
I left,
entertainment,
I
and then there's
I did. Then there's the
yeah,
sports world.
yeah.
I did. There's a giant area in there that's carved out for sports. I could come back and talk about that one later. But definitely on the sports side, because of what I've done with private aviation, I kind of talked about it a little bit. Sports, that really got me into that arena and that industry. But then quickly I found myself doing sporting events with HBO and Showtime, and we're putting up boxing rings at US Cellular Park, and I'm doing MMA events, and I started my own MMA amateur company, and because I had the television media background and people liked me. I like to say, actually, my business partner in another venture that I'm involved with, Norm Weiner, who was out of WXRT, he made XRT what it is today, almost 30 years with them. So he retired, and he and I are working on some really cool things. But Norm Weiner likes to say, one thing in Chicago, that if you still have your kneecaps, you're good. And I was like, oh, we are kind of a gangster town.
Yeah.
So I asked him, I go, I want to use that. So Norm, I'm using it. I still have my kneecaps. So the media people really, they liked working with me. And with sports, it just made it really easy. So it was really easy for me to work with the sanctioning bodies, to have sporting events such as boxing or MMA. And sanctioning bodies have to give approval. You have to be approved and permits. Everything's. I mean, it's if those dots and those T's aren't dotted and crossed, it doesn't happen. But like I said earlier about maintaining those relationships from aviation and manufacturing and chemicals to now sports, and being able to maintain that relationship. And I'm one that'll send people Christmas cards. I still write stuff out.
Yeah.
I'll send emails or texts. And it could be somebody from 15 years ago to now. So Nancy, if she's listening, she got an email from me, and because I consider them friends. But you have to do things the right way. If you don't do it the right way in the legal way, especially when you work with government entities, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people out there that take shortcuts, and I am not a shortcut taker. Those ethics and integrity in me, and maybe that's the Marine Corps. When I said earlier that you learn the hard way and I made mistakes, because I was a shortcut. You take shortcuts, it's not good.
Yeah.
Just be true and do it the right way, and good things are always going to come. So with Nancy, that's what with that organization, I was really happy to be able to pick up the phone and say, we have this really great idea. And it was on the Elite Amateur Fight League, which is that mixed martial arts program, which is state by state tournaments, and going into the fifth season. Fourth season. Going into the fourth season, and you could catch some of that stuff on NBC Sports, so EAFL. So yeah. So yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's a very good thing to kind of wrap up. We know that you have to leave in a little bit. We've taken up a decent amount of your time. So before we go, where can our listeners find you or 2112? This is where you get to plug anything you'd like.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on. Love to come back and talk about any other subjects that you want. And you could find myself and my colleagues at 2112inc.com. That's 2112inc.com. That's our incubator. All our information is listed on there, telephone numbers and emails. The Hangar stage, which is our film stage, when I'm allowed to put pictures and content up, you can find that on Instagram or Facebook, and that's the Hangar film stage here in Chicago. And on 2112, just follow us, sign up for the newsletter, come into a mixer, a networking event, and become part of the community. Really fun stuff happening in 2020. I wish you both an awesome Happy New Year, and looking forward to doing some fun stuff with you both in 2020.
Yeah, we really appreciate you taking your time. And again, for everyone, this is the Alone and So Very Afraid podcast. And today we had Rob Tovar, director here at 2112 Incubator.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Right.
Appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks. Yeah.